Hi everyone, and welcome to this new video. Today we're talking about Fedora Linux 43, recently released and shaping up to be a truly revolutionary release. If you know Fedora, you know it has always been the distribution that isn't afraid, the one that tests new technologies first, which then go on to become standard across the entire Linux ecosystem. With Fedora 43, this tradition goes even further, and let me say right away that we are talking about epochal changes. We have the definitive transition to Wayland for GNOME, with the complete removal of the X11 session, a fully renewed installer, the final switch to DNF5 even in the installer, and a series of changes that touch practically every aspect of the distribution. The result is a Fedora that is more modern, more coherent, and much more future-oriented. As always with Fedora, this means you'll get access to the latest technologies, but you'll also need to be ready to leave some parts of the past behind. In the next 20 minutes, we'll go through everything together, from the most evident new features to the technical details that make a real difference in everyday use. In Fedora 43, the changes are really numerous, so let's start right away. The first one is Anaconda Web UI, which now finally arrives for the spins as well. In the past, if you installed Fedora KDE, XFCE, or other variants, you probably noticed that the installer wasn't the same as in the Workstation edition. This difference created a certain fragmentation. With Fedora 43 instead, all variants now share the same modern, uniform interface, accessible via an internal browser with a much cleaner and more responsive design. Finally, we can talk about complete consistency in the installation experience, an enormous step forward in usability. The real bombshell, however, is that GNOME is now Wayland-only. The X11 session has been removed, and GNOME now runs exclusively on Wayland. Applications that still require X11 work through X-Wayland. It's a bold move, one that other distributions hesitate to make for fear of breaking compatibility. Fedora instead continues to play the role of pioneer, accelerating the transition towards the future. And it's not the first time. Let's remember that Fedora was among the first to adopt Systemd, Pipewire, and BTRF as the default file system. Another important new feature is in Kinoite, Fedora's immutable variant. From now on, it has automatic updates enabled by default. The system downloads and prepares updates in the background and only requires a reboot to apply them. An approach reminiscent of Windows and Mac OS, but with the advantage of open-source philosophy. This minimizes the risk of breakage and makes Fedora Kinoite even more reliable for those who want a stable but always up-to-date system. On the typography front, there are two interesting changes. A default monospace fallback font, which ensures consistency even when a specific requested font is not installed. Support for the new Color V1 format in the Noto color emoji fonts, which significantly improves the visual rendering of emojis, making them sharper and more modern. For developers, Fedora 43 updates the entire new toolchain. GCC, glibc, binoodles, and GDB are brought to their latest versions, ensuring compatibility and performance with modern standards. The gold linker is deprecated, considered obsolete, and the binoodles gold package disappears. A small technical detail, but significant. Fedora is always aligned with the future, even when that means saying goodbye to historical technologies. Another technical novelty involves Fedora CoreOS, which now uses Containerfile for its build process, abandoning the custom CoreOS assembler system. This makes the whole build process more standard, transparent, and predictable, in line with widespread practices in the container world. Finally, many fundamental libraries are updated, including Perl 5.4.2. That's the beauty of Fedora, always having the latest software available, ready to use without waiting months. Fedora 43 also brings a long-awaited transition. DNF5 becomes the official package manager included in the installer. Until now, Anaconda, the Fedora installer, still used DNF4, while on the installed system, you could already test DNF5. This difference could create some inconsistencies. With Fedora 43, everything is unified. From installation to daily package management, you always use the same engine. But what are the practical advantages of DNF5? Speed. The new backend is written in C++ and no longer in Python, making package management much faster. Operations like dependency resolution or repository refresh are significantly quicker. Optimized cache management. DNF5 downloads and reuses metadata more intelligently, avoiding bandwidth waste and improving the experience for users with slow or unstable connections. Interrupted downloads are resumed automatically without having to start from scratch. Consistent interface. The commands remain similar to DNF4, but clearer and more consistent. This makes life easier for both regular users and system scripts that depend on the package manager. Better compatibility with modern repositories. DNF5 handles complex repositories and scenarios with multiple software sources more effectively. This is crucial for Fedora, which integrates official repositories, RPM Fusion, Copper, and Flatpak in a single ecosystem. New reporting features. With DNF5, you can get more detailed information on updates, orphan packages, and conflicts, making it easier to diagnose issues and keep the system clean. In short, DNF5 isn't just a technical update, it's a generational change. Fedora becomes one of the first distributions to fully switch to this new package manager, which in the long run will completely replace DNF4. For the end user, this means faster updates, fewer errors, more transparent dependency management, and a system that remains consistent in every phase, from installation to daily use. From the repository standpoint, Fedora 43 maintains the classic structure we know well. The base repository, very large and curated directly by the Fedora project, covers most of the necessary software. Added to this is RPM Fusion, which provides multimedia codecs and proprietary software that Fedora, for legal or policy reasons, cannot include by default. For desktop applications, we see strong integration with FlatHub. Many modern apps are now distributed in Flatpak format, and Fedora guarantees native integration, so you can have updated applications regardless of the distro's release cycle. If you're looking for something more niche, there's Copper, a sort of Fedora style, a system of personal builds where developers and users publish packages not found in the official repos. It's an ecosystem that greatly expands the software offering. Fedora's advantage compared to other distributions is that packages are always very up to date. Software released just a few days earlier is often already available without having to wait months. This makes Fedora ideal for those who always want the very latest tools, libraries, and development environments. During my tests with the beta, Fedora 43 ran Linux kernel 6.17, and the final release confirms this version. This means immediate support for the latest technologies, new Intel and AMD processors, next-generation GPUs, network cards, and peripherals just hitting the market. Fedora is famous for being one of the first to integrate the newest kernels, and this translates into greater, out-of-the-box hardware compatibility. Kernel 6.17 doesn't just bring drivers. It introduces scheduler improvements, optimizations for multi-core performance, and updates to file systems like BTRFS, which Fedora adopts by default. There are also critical security patches ensuring protection against hardware vulnerabilities discovered in recent months. In short, if you have a very recent computer, Fedora is probably the distribution that will make everything work without waiting for backports or manual patches. The new Anaconda Web UI is one of the most evident changes in Fedora 43. The interface is based on modern web technologies, is responsive, more intuitive, and now consistent across all Fedora variants: Workstation, KDE, XFC, Server, and so on. In beta tests, the installer proved stable and fast, especially thanks to the integration with DNF5, which makes package handling during installation quicker and more efficient. Installation times are noticeably reduced compared to previous versions, and the overall experience is smoother. Despite the more accessible interface, Anaconda keeps all its historical flexibility. You can do custom partitioning, advanced configurations, disk encryption, and installations on complex storage setups like RAID or LVM. This makes it suitable both for users who want a quick and simple installation and for those with more technical needs. An important detail is the new uniformity with the spins. In the past, installing Fedora KDE or Fedora XFCE meant using a different installer compared to GNOME. Now the experience is finally unified, ensuring more consistency and less confusion for users. Once installed, Fedora 43 welcomes you with a native Wayland experience that feels very smooth. GNOME runs only on Wayland, and you can feel it. Gestures are more responsive, multi-monitor management is improved, performance is better. The software stack is updated, GNOME 49, KDE Plasma 6.4, and modern applications. Flatpak integration is excellent, and the overall experience is consistent. For those coming from X11, there may be differences with some legacy apps, but for most uses, Wayland today is superior. The pre-installed software is basic. There aren't many tools or deep customizations. What you get is essentially a vanilla GNOME experience. Personally, I find this approach appreciable. Fedora 43 maintains the classic approach for NVIDIA drivers, RPM Fusion repositories, or NVIDIA's official one. With DNF5 installation is simple. Just run dnf install akmod-nvidia, and the system automatically compiles the module for the running kernel, handling updates and recompilations without manual intervention. The interesting part is that Fedora tends to support the latest drivers right away. On Wayland, drivers 495 Plus with GBM solved many of the historical limitations, and with the most recent 545 Plus, the experience is now almost on par with X11. Naturally, on legacy hardware, there may still be edge cases. Some older GPUs still require the NVIDIA legacy drivers or the Nouveau fallback, which however doesn't provide high performance. Another important point, Fedora integrates the drivers well with CLinux and Secure Boot. This means that even with updated kernels and protected systems, NVIDIA modules are handled without complications, reducing the issues that in the past required manual security tweaks. For those doing gaming, 3D rendering, or CUDA work, the experience is much more solid compared to a few years ago. Gaming on Fedora 43 benefits directly from the recent kernel and updated drivers. Steam works well via X-Wayland, and many modern games support Wayland natively. A strong point is Proton compatibility, which ensures that a large portion of Windows titles run, including games that until a few years ago were unthinkable on Linux. Steam Deck compatibility is excellent because Fedora adopts a software stack very close to SteamOS, recent kernel, updated Mesa, Pipewire for audio, and GBM and NVIDIA drivers. Pipewire is one of the key technologies. It not only replaces Pulse Audio and Jack, but also ensures more stable, low-latency audio management, useful both for gaming and music production. Of course, some limitations remain. Very old titles or games with particularly aggressive DRM, for example some anti-cheat systems not yet compatible, may still have issues without X11. But these are rare and increasingly marginal cases. And with Fedora 43, you can say that Linux gaming is now mature even for non-expert users. Fedora is probably the most solid desktop distribution in terms of security. It has CLinux in enforcing mode by default, an active firewall since installation, rigorous package signing, and security patches delivered very rapidly. CLinux operates transparently for the user, but provides enterprise-level protection, preventing unauthorized operations even if software is compromised. The firewall is configured restrictively out of the box, and security updates arrive almost in real time thanks to the community and Red Hat support. With Fedora 43, kernel 6.17 also brings the latest mitigations for hardware vulnerabilities, including patches for speculative execution and other flaws discovered in recent months. This makes Fedora not only secure for desktop use, but also one of the most reliable platforms for workstations and critical development environments. For those working in sensitive contexts, such as software development or research, Fedora offers a level of protection that few other distributions provide without manual configuration. From the enterprise side, Fedora 43 isn't just a system for enthusiasts. It's the technological base from which the next Red Hat Enterprise Linux will be born. In other words, using Fedora today means having a preview of the technologies that will dominate servers and corporate workstations in a few years. Kinoite, the immutable Fedora variant based on KDE Plasma, with automatic updates becomes much more interesting. The system updates in the background and applies changes only at reboot, with the possibility of automatic rollback in case of problems. This approach drastically reduces the risks associated with updates and brings Fedora closer to models like Chrome OS or Silverblue. For enterprise workstations, this combination of high-level security, updated software, and immutable design is very attractive. It means less downtime, fewer stability risks, and more predictability in the system's lifecycle. In a world where security and centralized management are priorities, Fedora 43, and in particular Kinoite, represent a concrete example of how a Linux desktop system can become enterprise-ready without sacrificing innovation and modernity. Being a cutting-edge distribution by philosophy, each release still has some issues to resolve, and in this one especially with applications relying on X11-specific features. Fedora 43 officially drops the GNOME X11 session in favor of Wayland. Most software works fine through X-Wayland, but some legacy tools like screenshot utilities, automation tools based on Xrandr or Xdotool, and remote desktop software may be limited or unstable. Arc in this beta also shows bugs that in some cases prevent archive creation. Additionally, some GNOME extensions not yet updated can cause crashes or fail to work correctly. It should also be noted that some proprietary applications such as Zoom or Teams in certain Wayland configurations still show anomalous behavior. On the update side, upgrades from Fedora 42 remain reliable through DNF system upgrade. While it isn't a rolling release, Fedora maintains a very solid and well-documented 6-month cycle. It should just be noted that proprietary software and third-party drivers, particularly NVIDIA drivers, may require a bit of extra attention during version upgrades. Fedora 43 is perfect for those who want to be at the forefront. If you like modern technologies, aren't afraid of very recent software, and want to see the future of Linux before others, it's ideal. It's great for developers, for those who put security first, and for those who want a modern and consistent desktop. It's less suited for those who need maximum compatibility with legacy software or prefer gradual changes. Overall behavior is smooth and modern. The native Wayland experience is superior to distributions that still keep X11 as default. Updates are frequent and reliable. The philosophy is clear: less legacy compatibility, more focus on modern technologies and security. It's the classic Fedora approach, taken to the extreme. Fedora continues to be Linux's innovation lab. The choice to remove the GNOME X11 session is a bold move that other distributions haven't yet dared to make. The project is mature, with an active community and Red Hat support. Documentation is excellent and community support is strong. The pioneering role Fedora has always played has never been more evident than with this release. Fedora 43 is a release of radical modernization. Less compatibility with the past, more focus on the future. If you share this vision of the Linux desktop, it's a fantastic distribution. If you want top-level security, always updated software, and aren't afraid of being an early adopter, Fedora 43 will reward you. The critical aspects are mainly linked to the removal of X11. Some legacy or proprietary applications may not work perfectly. The release cycle is fast. Every 6 months, a new version. It isn't a install and forget distro. It requires a minimum of maintenance. On the Fedora QA portal dedicated to bug indexing, there are still some relevant issues flagged in the beta phase. That's normal. These are tracked as blockers precisely to ensure they won't be overlooked. They'll most likely be resolved before the final release. But it's worth remembering that Fedora 43 is still in a stabilization phase. Fedora 43 is classic Fedora, a true leap into the next decade of the Linux desktop. Fewer compromises with the past, more focus on future technologies. Its 6-month release cycle and lack of long-term support make it a lab in every sense, but a very successful one. A small gem where a multinational like Red Hat tests the base of its enterprise Linux. And that's no small detail, because it means giving desktop users an always cutting-edge experience. Of course, it isn't the most solid distribution on the planet, it isn't the most consistent, and it comes with constant innovations that require an open mindset and some technical preparation. I'd say Fedora is perfect for an experienced user or someone eager to experiment. But it remains an extraordinary project, and in this version, it works really well. Making all this available to everyone, with overall solid performance and sufficient robustness, is no small feat. It's also interesting to note that even with Red Hat in the background, the project manages to remain community-driven, still making bold choices, but never detaching itself. Fedora is run by a foundation that more or less regularly publishes meeting scripts, decision processes, and budgets, maintaining professionalism and transparency. If you like being a pioneer and trying today what tomorrow will become standard, Fedora 43 is the right choice. If instead you prefer absolute stability and total compatibility, it might be better to wait until these innovations mature in other distributions.